Hey there, it's Chrissy Key Rollins here. And if you're new to my channel, I focus on making videos that simplify holistic living in all aspects. And I share everything that I know that makes my life have less anxiety, more fulfillment, and allow for a little more ease. And this video is part of an astrology revealed series that I'm doing where I'm taking an in-depth look at each of the 12 major zodiac signs. And this video in particular, we are going to talk about all things retrograde. So I've done a video in the past, I'll drop a link in the description below, that speaks specifically to Mercury retrograde, which we happen to be undergoing right now. But interestingly enough, Mercury is one of 6 planets that is currently in retrograde at the time of this recording. And it got me thinking about retrogrades in general. What gifts do they bring? What energies do they bring? And that's what this video is all about. I am going to touch on the 6 planets that are currently in retrograde and give you some insights into those. And obviously that's not going to cover all the planets. So maybe I'll make a follow-up video if you guys find this one valuable. If you do, make sure that you go ahead and subscribe while you're here, drop a comment below, consider sharing this video. All those things helps the system to recognize that this video has value, and it will help to promote it for other people to see it as well. Okay, so Mercury retrograde. Again, I'll drop a little link in the comment below on my video that focuses just on that. Mercury retrograde is probably the one that you're most familiar with if you've heard this term retrograde before. Now, what retrogrades are, from my understanding of it, it's when the planets appear to be moving in a backward path along their orbit. Do they actually move backward? Is that an illusion? Not a question I'm going to answer for you. But when they do go on this retrograde track, what they bring to us, what they extend to us, is an invitation to revisit the past. So during retrogrades, you will find that you start to relive certain situations that you thought you had moved past, that you thought that you were beyond, that you thought that you were over with and no longer had to deal with. But retrogrades are here to serve you up a piping hot opportunity to decide, who are you today and how are you going to be right now? And who you are right now is a accumulation, whatever that word is. It's a collective of everything that you've been through in your past experiences. So when these retrogrades come about, the energies that are associated with the particular planets that are in retrograde are going to start to shift and stir things up and start to show up certain themes throughout your day-to-day experience while the planets are in retrograde. Now, the shadow of the retrograde actually has a couple weeks period prior to the planet actually going into retrograde, and that shadow can linger a couple weeks following when the planet goes right back on track again. So we can feel these energies right before and right after, as well as during the actual retrograde itself. So I always look at retrogrades as opportunities to relive what feels like a past experience, but from my current state of consciousness. So no matter what planet is in retrograde, I find it extremely helpful to, during a retrograde period, to not take life personal and not carry more than my fair share of the weight or the burden of the situations while the planets are in retrograde. It's easy to do because it feels like from most of our conditioning, we are taught that if you make the right moves, you get the right treat released on the other side. So a lot of us have been learning from past mistakes, shifting how we show up in life, doing things better. And so we expect that treat or reward to just come ushering in on the other side, but that's just not how this plane works. It's not what we do here. We're here for the contrast. We're here for all of it. So you're going to get all of the emotions, all of the feels. And part of your graduation is not just going to be like, here's your reward. Part of your graduation is your reward is that you get to go through this past unidealistic situation one more time. But this time around, you have the power to decide, are you the person that you were before? Are you going to repeat the same things that you did in the past? Or are you going to start to learn lessons and incorporate and change, not the world around you, but what your storyline narrative is that's happening inside of you so that you can interpret life in a different way. You can show up as you never have before, and you can finally put the end to cycles that no longer serve you. So no matter which planet's in retrograde, know that you're going to get the opportunity to go through similar past experiences again in the present moment. And none of it is a sign that you are doing anything wrong. All of it is an invitation to take a more conscious, mindful, active participation look at how you are showing up in life. Because even when we do all the things right, that doesn't excuse us to not be authentic. It doesn't excuse us to not be in integrity, not just when, all the good stuff's being served up. So when life starts to throw you these curveballs that are like, I thought we were past this, I thought we got over this, why is this happening again? Check to see if there's a planet that's in retrograde, because there's a good chance you're actually experiencing an invitation for your next evolution, not a punishment for your past wrong mistakes. So Mercury retrograde is probably the one that we're most familiar with. It happens quite a bit. I believe this is the final time that Mercury will go in retrograde for this calendar year of 2021. And Mercury is going to be in retrograde until October 18th. So from the time of this recording till about 3 weeks out from this recording, about 2.5 weeks out, and then those couple weeks that linger right at the end of it, all of what I'm getting ready to tell you about Mercury retrograde applies. So Mercury is the planet that governs communication, all things communication, emails, talking, texting, all communication. So you will find when Mercury is in retrograde that you might say things the wrong way, or someone might say things the wrong way to you, or you thought that you sent that email, but yet it didn't go anywhere. Disruptions, interruptions, and frustrations around communication are really, really ripe when Mercury's in retrograde. This is an opportunity to evolve your communication, to change the way not only that you communicate with those around you, but how do you communicate with your internal self? That's something that I'm constantly working on and constantly being served up opportunities to continue to work on. Because even if the thoughts that I'm thinking aren't positive, but they're not about myself, I'm still holding that toxicity within my mind as it replays over and over again. And perhaps we go through these opportunities to have it be where all of your energy, the story that you tell yourself, all of it comes from that expanded higher self, fullest self, highest awareness perspective. So communication gets affected whenever Mercury goes into retrograde. You're going to find technology stops working so well. Technology is a big part of our communications, how we share information around this planet. So technologies can go a bit haywire. And right now, Mercury is in retrograde under the astrology sign, the Zodiac of Libra. So in particular, this time around, you're going to feel it a lot in your relationships. And actually, all that I share today about these 6 planets that are currently in retrograde, all of them are heavily going to be showing up in your relationships, because right now we're going through a huge shift in our relationships. It's been going on for a while, but last year around this time, these relationships were falling apart. This time around, more are going to be healed than fall apart. So fear not when that retrograde monster rears its ugly head in whatever form or fashion it does within your relationships. Maybe this is a primary relationship. Maybe this is a familial relationship. Maybe this is a relationship with clients. Maybe this is just the relationship with yourself. I don't know. You've got to ask yourself this, because you're the one that's living your life. But when it shows up, don't take it as a sign that you are destined to continue this pattern in the future. You are destined to continue that pattern in the future if you continue to behave how you have in the past. But if you take it as an opportunity to show up how you never have before, to clear up and align your energy and your thoughts and your actions more than ever before, you will find that healing and you will find that breakthrough on the other side of it. So remember, this isn't a punishment that gets dished out. It's an opportunity. And how you show up and how you embrace it and how you decide to be throughout it decides how you experience it. So another planet that's in retrograde right now at the time of this recording is Jupiter. And Jupiter is going to be in retrograde until October 18th. Now, Jupiter is here, and during its retrograde, it's asking you to prioritize what's necessary for your expansion. Where Mercury rules communication, Jupiter governs expansion. So in a retrograde, you're going to be asked, do you really want what you say that you do? And you're going to be given opportunities to decide and to see for yourself. If you continue certain habits and patterns, you will continue to limit your expansion. And where you are limiting your own expansion, that most likely is going to be where retrograde acts up for you with Jupiter being in retrograde. So it's going to have you taking a look at how you're being within your life to limit your own expansion and where you need to free yourself up so that you can have more expansion. Saturn is also in retrograde right now. It's going to be in retrograde until October the 11th. Saturn governs all things structure and authority. So when Saturn goes into retrograde, this is all about self-control and discipline. So during this retrograde, take time to consider about how you can find freedom in restriction. Now, most of us that are on our authentic healing journeys, we are all about that freedom from restrictions, like stop restricting me so I can be fully who I am. Yet there is a very beautiful divine part of restrictions that actually create more freedom. So for example, if you're a little bit more restricted in your diet, like the way I choose to be, and eliminate certain foods that look like you're missing out, looks like you're living restricted, but actually help to support you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically on the other side by leaving them out, then that restriction is actually leading you to a freedom. I experience a freedom in my body, mind, and spirit with these foods eliminated. So while on the outside it may look like a restriction, I actually find freedom with that particular restriction. So think about that. And again, all of this right now is really showing up in your relationships. So find freedom in holding back what doesn't need to be said because it's not in full alignment with the ultimate truth. Find ways that you can find freedom with restriction when we are so used to finding freedom by busting free and being free of restrictions. So take that to heart during this Saturn retrograde period. Now, Uranus is also in retrograde, and that is going to be in retrograde until January the 18th. So this one's going to be hanging around for a bit. And Uranus is here to remind us to stay present. And when Uranus goes into retrograde, it is going to give you the opportunity to find the courage that is needed in order to shift and change internally as well as externally. So when this retrograde starts to happen with Uranus, you will find yourself needing to muster the courage to speak your truth, to stand firm in who you know yourself to be, or any other way that is required in order for you to continue evolving internally and to shift out of those places internally that you no longer desire to be, and also to support what changes need to happen externally so that you can continue to move forward. So where are you ducking and hiding, and how can you muster it in, welcome in, summon in, encourage in some courage so that you can make the changes that are needed. Two more left. Neptune is also currently in retrograde, and it's going to be in retrograde until December the 1st. And this one is all about releasing toxicity and energy drainers. So with Neptune being in retrograde right now, it is here to ask you to remove your blinders and to speak your truth. Now, all of this lines up with your most authentic and independent expression of self. So that's what all of this is supporting, your authenticity, because the only reason you get agitated and rubbed by any of this stuff anyway is because it's in the places that you're not being fully authentic to who you are. That's a really great retrospection to take into everything in life. Okay, and then the final planet that is currently in retrograde is Pluto. And Pluto is a planet of rebirth. It is the great revealer. It is all about that kind of buried and then coming up out of the darkness again. So this time around, you can consider for Pluto in retrograde, it's time to let go of that no longer serves you. So it's asking you to learn from the lessons of your past, because you're going to get them served up, piping steaming hot and fresh, especially in your relationships this time around. Learn from the lessons of the past and let go of what no longer serves you. Now, I'm going to say a little caveat here since we're talking about relationships. A lot of us feel or could feel during this time that the person that we're partnered with in our relationship is the thing that we need to let go. But notice, if you let that person go or that person's further away from you, the thing that you're trying to distance yourself from is actually what's inside of you. So some of our challenging partners in life, the reason that they're challenging is because they're asking us, maybe in a sloppy way, maybe not with the most effective communication, but they're asking us, they are inviting us, they are in their own way extending an invitation for you to be more fully authentic and authentically expressed, to be more integrity filled and more true to who you know yourself to be and what you believe to be true about yourself in this world around us. So again, retrogrades are not here to punish you. They're here to evolve you. They're here to have you take a slide back so you can get that slingshot forward. That's the way it works here. So it's not a sign that you're doing things wrong. It is a sign that life is progressing regardless of your opinion of it, and how you decide to be in each conscious moment, connected to yourself, connected to the big picture of who it is that you're dealing with in these circumstances that are unfolding around you, no matter what they look like. Who are you going to be and how are you going to show up? All right, let me know if this was helpful. Have you got some extra retrograde info that you want to share with us? Drop it in the comments below. I love to keep this conversation going. If you want to dive more in depth into learning more about how to handle all of this and get stirred up inside of you as the planets do what they do, as relationships and the world around you do what they do, join me over in my community on Patreon, and I would love to offer you some more support there. I've got support at all the levels. Go check it out. You can look under Chrissy Key Rollins or Holistic Restoration on Patreon. I'll drop some links in the description below. And thanks for watching. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for continuing the conversation with me. Feel free to share this with others. And if there's anything in particular you'd like me to dive more in, if you want me to hit on the rest of the planets, let me know that in the comments too, and I will deliver it up for you. All right. Love you. Until next time.